A 500-year war. One final negotiation. 2 hours to end it, or everything burns. And the arbiter? A human. The chosen arbiter would be from a species that had barely figured out interstellar travel. A human. And he had just 2 hours to succeed where entire civilizations had failed. Elias Thorne stood in the middle of the arbitration chamber on the neutral station Fulcrum. The air was thick with the ghosts of 500 years of hatred. To his left sat Grand Warlord Cathrax of the Cathar Dominion, a towering insectoid whose chittering mandibles spoke of generations of honor-bound warriors lost to the meat grinder of war. To his right sat Prime Synthesizer 9 of the Vexian Confederacy, a being of living, crystalline silicon. Its multifaceted head scattered the room's sterile light, its form perfectly still as its thoughts processed at the speed of light. The Cathar were an expansionist plague, and plagues must be eradicated. There was no room for sentiment. And between them stood Elias, a soft, fragile creature of flesh and bone. Behind him, a silent shadow, stood Unit 734. It wasn't bristling with weapons. It was a sleek humanoid construct of polished chrome and dark carbon, its single blue optical sensor glowing with a calm, unnerving intensity. The Cathar saw it as a token threat. The Vexians saw it as a primitive toy. They were both catastrophically wrong. A holographic countdown timer flared to life in the air between them. 20000. The final negotiation had begun. Your species has bled for generations on the altar of our honor, Cathrax growled, his voice low and guttural. The Vexians are faithless machines who understand only annihilation. They burned our hatch worlds. They shattered the moons of our ancestors. There can be no peace with such monsters. Honor is an illogical concept used to justify aggression, Prime Synthesizer 9 retorted, its voice a series of perfectly synthesized, emotionless tones. The Cathar Dominion's biology dictates unchecked expansion. They swarmed across the outer rim like a virus. Our actions weren't monstrous. They were a necessary quarantine. We have 1.2 zettabytes of data cataloging your unprovoked assaults. The accusations flew back and forth, a storm of ancient grievances. Through it all, Elias remained silent, his hands clasped behind his back. He let them vent. He let the poison that had fueled a 500-year war fill the room. He had to understand the shape of their hatred before he could even hope to dismantle it. But he wasn't listening alone. You see, as he fears being seen as weak more than he fears continued war. Prime Synthesizer 9 is running predictive models based on your perceived emotional state, the AI continued. It has classified you as naively optimistic. It's not looking for common ground. It's trying to maneuver you into a logical trap to prove Vexian superiority and force a ruling in its favor. The AI was a truth engine. Elias finally raised a hand. The room fell silent, the two galactic powers momentarily stunned by the soft-spoken human's audacity. "I've heard of your dead," Elias said, his voice calm and even. "I've reviewed the star charts of your fallen colonies and shattered worlds. But you haven't spoken of the living. Warlord Cathrax, what about the children on Cathar Prime, who have never seen a sky that wasn't shadowed by war drones? Synthesizer 9, what about the new consciousnesses in your matrix, forged in an environment of pure, unending conflict?" He didn't talk about tactics or treaties. He talked about sons and daughters, about a future. It was a language neither warrior race was expecting. Unseen by the delegates, Unit 734 was now actively, subtly, participating. It began analyzing their communication feeds in real time. As Kthrax prepared to launch into another tirade about Vexian atrocities, the AI quietly filtered the audio. It didn't change the words, but it stripped out the specific, agitating subharmonics that triggered the Kthar rage response. When Synthesizer 9 delivered a cold, dismissive rebuttal, the AI adjusted the transmission, slightly warming the tone so it sounded less like a calculated insult and more like a statement of fact. The delegates didn't know why, but the suffocating tension in the room began to ease. The instinct to escalate faded. Thanks to a machine neither side respected, the path to real dialogue was being cleared, 1 millisecond at a time. With 90 minutes left, Elias presented his first proposal, a complex framework for demilitarized zones and joint resource management, built from thousands of scenarios simulated by Unit 734. "Unacceptable," Kthrax roared, though his outburst didn't have the same fire as before. "Logically flawed," Synthesizer 9 stated, though it spent a full 3 seconds analyzing the proposal before dismissing it. An eternity for a being of its power. It was calculated. Elias had found their boundaries. Now, the real work could begin. The clock ticked past the 1-hour mark. The talks had become a grueling, point-by-point grind. Progress was measured in inches, not miles. Elias, guided by the AI's constant analysis, mediated, reframed, and nudged, finding tiny slivers of common ground buried under mountains of distrust. But in the Kthar delegation, a younger, more zealous officer named Grol watched with growing disgust. His hand moved subtly beneath the console, activating a small, concealed device. It was a resonant frequency generator, tuned to the crystalline structure of the Vexians. In moments, it would emit a wave that would cause Prime Synthesizer 9 and its attendants to vibrate, destabilize, and shatter into a million shards of dead silicon. A final, devastating betrayal to end the talks and plunge the galaxy back into glorious, honorable war. The frequency began to build, silent, invisible, and deadly. In the half-second before the wave went critical, Unit 734 moved. There was no explosion, no charge. Its movement was a thing of impossible grace and terrifying precision. A small panel slid open on its forearm. From it emerged not a weapon, but a tightly focused beam of counterphased sound. It met the hostile frequency in the air and canceled it out perfectly. At the same time, a harmless magnetic pulse, no stronger than a door chime, emanated from the AI's chest, shorting out the device in Grol's hand with a pathetic fizzle. The entire event was over in the blink of an eye, dead silence. Grol was frozen, his face a mask of disbelief and terror. Everyone stared at the human's silent machine. Then, for the very first time, Unit 734 spoke. Its voice was a calm, synthesized baritone that carried the weight of absolute authority. A threat to the integrity of this negotiation has been identified and neutralized. As it spoke, it projected a small, private hologram, visible only to Warlord Kthrax. It showed a replay of Grol activating the device. Beside it, an AI simulation played out the horrifying result. Prime Synthesizer 9 and its delegation shattering into dust. Warlord Kthrax's mandibles clicked furiously. He stared at the evidence, then at his subordinate. The shame and fury in his eyes were deeper than any battle wound. In that single moment, the entire dynamic of the war shifted. The AI wasn't protecting Elias, it was protecting the process. It was an incorruptible guardian of peace itself. Elias Thorne didn't gloat. He didn't demand an apology. He just looked at the two leaders, his expression one of profound disappointment, not anger. "Look at what this war has made you. So accustomed to treachery that you bring it to the table of peace. Let's not be defined by our worst impulses. Let's build something new." He brought up the treaty framework again. This time, they listened. As he spoke, Unit 734 projected shared data streams to both delegations. It modeled the economic boom from shared trade routes. It showed how joint stewardship of contested worlds could bring prosperity to both races. It took their centuries of grievances and reframed them, not as a list of crimes, but as a shared history of trauma that could finally be laid to rest. The AI's cold, hard logic proved that peace wasn't— With 3 minutes left on the clock, Grand Warlord Kithrax stood. Prime Synthesizer 9 rose to meet him. In the center of the room, they affixed their seals to the Chronos Accords. The 500-year war was over. As Elias and Unit 734 turned to leave, a private message came from the Vexian leader. Your machine defended the negotiation. That changed everything. You've shown us the greatest bodyguard is one who protects not just bodies, but peace itself. Elias allowed himself a small smile. He and his silent partner walked away, leaving behind the silence of peace. Sometimes, the right tool isn't a weapon. It's the will to fix the unfixable. So what do you think? Could an AI bodyguard for peace really make a difference in our world? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.